You're tuned to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz, and this is the Patient Partner Show, and it's also a podcast on Spreaker, so you can find us there. Jeannie Roller is my co-host. Jeannie, today we're talking about an article that one of our good friends sent us, and actually how you and I met was through Misty Roberts and Medical Patient Modesty, who Misty's been doing this work, this champion work for better healthcare for really a long time, 10, 15 years at least, I'd say. And God love her because she did put us together. And because we both thought we were crazy when it happened to us, we were thinking, I know you did, Jeannie, I know I did, that we're the only people that this happened to. And then when we got in contact with Misty, we found sadly that it is not the truth. And there is just thousands of people. So that's how we all kind of met each other and other people that you and I talk with outside of this podcast and get information from. And we're all in it together trying to get this healthcare fixed. And this is another disturbing story about a lady that went to her doctor. It was a hematologist, I believe. And then all of a sudden, the male hematologist, female patient, he was asking her different questions. Then all of a sudden, it was time for her to take her shirt off, and he was going to do a breast exam on her. Now, I don't know. I didn't go to medical school. I don't know what the hematologist, if that's in their wheelhouse of a routine procedure for them. Usually it's a GYN doctor or your primary care doctor. In my instances or whatever, maybe an oncologist if you have that kind of history, I would think. Again, I didn't go to medical school. I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be. This is all of our opinions, yours and mine, Jeannie. I just want to preface it, but this is another story that's just so disturbing, and it goes along with one that we did maybe a couple of years ago that happened in Texas. I remember that. I don't remember exactly the city. And I actually talked with the detectives that were involved in that case, and it was 25 women that came forward in the end, and they knew that there were more than that, and it was with a cardiologist, and that's what he was doing. He was giving every one of them a breast exam, which didn't have anything to do with what the functioning of their cardiology problems were, as far as I can remember. So I know that detective was really sad because they didn't have anything that they could charge this doctor with. It was all misdemeanor stuff, and it wasn't anything that was going to make any difference per se, and it wasn't anything that was going to get this some notoriety, so people didn't know to go to this guy if you were a female patient. Sad, 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 and we talk about that all the time. So go ahead with that story. I don't know if I can hear another one, Jeannie, but go ahead.
Okay, well, this is a lady. She had a stroke. She was in the hospital. Her neurologist referred her to get some blood work done. So she went to see this doctor. And, he really didn't seem interested until he asked her if she was sexually active. And, she didn't want to answer that. And then he asked her about the supposed stroke after she told him. She told him that she had just been released from the hospital, that she'd had her gynecology exam like 2 months previous, and then the stroke came along. And so he asked her how she knew she had a stroke, and she described what happened, that she was pulling her jeans over her knees and her body buckled under her, and she tumbled to the floor. And then she said she tried to reach for the bed, but it felt like she was under a 400-pound bag of sand, and she was trying to describe it, and he interrupted her by saying, "So you were laying on the floor with no shirt on and your pants pulled down?" That's what he got out of that.
Wow.
And he said, "That's pretty funny. Can I tell you a funny story about getting caught with your pants down?" And she wanted to say no, but she was afraid that, he might not want to help her. And so then he tells her about his mother and father getting caught, getting frisky in a car.
Okay. So that's what I want my doctor to tell me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then he told a young nurse, to get her ready for a physical exam. And the nurse tells her, the doctor wants you to take your shirt off. And she held out a paper gown and said, "Open to the front."
Mm-hmm.
And this lady, she's like, asked, "Why did he need to examine me with no shirt on? He's going to take my blood." And the nurse just stared at her blankly. And this lady asked, "Does he do it with everyone?" And the nurse just shrugged, handed her the gown, and left the room.
Yeah.
And so then she she complied. She took off her shirt, put on the paper gown, and he came in, the nurse with him, and she stood, by the exam table, leaning against the countertop like she didn't want to be with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he walked over and he began to touch her by saying, "I'm going to do a breast exam, lay down." And the nurse wouldn't look at her. And so, because this lady turned to look at the nurse, and the nurse wouldn't even make contact with the lady. And so this lady was pretty upset because, this man just put his hands all over her breast.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of was upset. So she started to wash her breast with a paper towel, wanted to get his handprints off of them. She went ahead, went and got her blood drawn. And, the guy never asked her for the results of her last mammogram or anything like that. He just simply didn't seem like he was interested in that information.
Yeah.
So when she got home, she talked to her mom, and her mom said, "That's not right." And so now this lady is bringing a lawsuit against this doctor for what she believes is sexual assault or abuse, however you want to label it.
Yeah.
And, she's done research on the Patient Bill of Rights saying that you should receive all information, that you should be given informed consent for any proposed procedure or treatment. But, Cindy, you and I both know that these Patient Bill of Rights are just pieces of paper with ink on them. They really mean nothing in so many cases.
Yeah.
And, when these doctors do this kind of thing, it's the power thing. If you're afraid to say no a lot of times because you're afraid that you won't get the treatment that you need or something, so you give in, and then afterwards you think to yourself, "This isn't right. That shouldn't have happened."
Yeah.
And that's what's happened with this lady. Is she kind of knew it at the time, but she gave in and did it.
Yeah.
So,
well, sometimes you don't know at the time. I mean, you and I have talked about that too. I didn't go to medical school. I'm trusting that whatever doctor is telling me that this is what the procedure is. I mean, some of it maybe is common sense. I mean, like we've talked about and people aren't awake for that. These pelvic exams when you go in there for a foot operation. I mean, that's kind of like, that's not, but they were doing that when people were out under general anesthesia, so you didn't even know it was happening. So we know that it does happen, that it did happen. So I don't get it. I have no answer. I'm ready to cry again. I know I was with that detective when he was telling me about the stories, that happened with those 25 women. So 25 women are lying? They're not. And how many people does it take for this to happen? And I guarantee you there's not going to anything happen to that doctor. I guarantee there's not going to. We know that. And I don't want to see anyone's career go down the tubes if what they're supposedly doing as healthcare is the right thing. Again, I'm not a doctor. But if it isn't, then we should stand a chance as the patient to know that this person is doing this stuff. I mean, what do you find out from your neighbor, your girlfriend, whatever, your girlfriend's cousins, next door neighbor's, ex-mother-in-law is going to tell you? And why aren't these things being more watched? It's like what we said on another podcast. I mean, why is a clinic allowed to charge you a facility fee now to use their machinery and stuff? I mean, who's the gatekeeper for this? Medicare? They're supposedly one of the big gatekeepers. I don't see that they are. I mean, you told a story on that podcast about your mom and the extra $50 from that doctor's office for an MA, and that's not even a medical person. I'm sorry, it's not. That's going to give your mom the shot for the flu shot. So this one, I'm crying with that lady. If there's anything we can do to help her to get that case go forward, absolutely we will. But I don't want to, and we hear it all the time. That's all we do, Jeannie. After a while, you just can't read about it and you just can't hear it anymore because I don't know what to do about it except leave. And my one thing, we only got a couple of seconds left, is I have a couple of doctors that are really, really decent. I ask for their opinion, and I know that they have the inside information, and they send me to the doctors they know that are going to give me better care. On that note, on that note, stay listening to Evergreen Media Network.